Well, good morning and good afternoon. How are you today? Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Nguyen. I am the product manager and also channel sales manager here at Zyxel. And I guess another role as well as a market development manager. So here we're about to talk about things about who Zyxel is. And again, thank you for being a partner here at Zyxel. Just a quick check. If you can hear me okay, just go ahead and raise your hand just so I know that there's nothing wrong. I don't have to go back. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you for that. All right, so let's go and jump in. We have a lot of slides to cover. Like I said, I've been here at Zyxel now. Coming on this month will be 17 years at Zyxel, and we love to talk about technology and how we and our solutions can bring to you, just different types of solutions for your customers or even for yourself as well for your networks. So we're going to introduce a little bit about Zyxel. We're going to go through a lot of the high-level topics on products that we provide here at Zyxel. So we have a lot of slides, like I said, to cover. One thing just to keep in mind is if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box and send me some questions. I will try to answer them in line with the presentation as best as I can. So we are actually out of the office in Anaheim, California. That's where our headquarters is for the U.S. Headquarters. We are a global company, Zyxel Networks, serving actually 32 years now of networking expertise. We were established in 1989, 100 million devices making connections, 600 employees worldwide, 150 markets with 700,000 businesses using Zyxel solutions, and continues to climb there. Just maybe a show of hands, how many of you here today are actually new Zyxel partners, like just been put on board maybe in the last month or two? And all right, great, excellent. Well, welcome to the Zyxel family, the Zyxel team. We look forward again to working with you on any of these solutions. But one thing to make sure you keep in mind is Zyxel has now divided ourselves into 3 regions. We used to be 2 regions, an East, West, and Canada. So now we've actually moved into a 3 sales rep kind of setup. And this is the current map that we have. So we have David Chen, who's handling the East Coast and Canada. Andy is handling the West Coast. And if you're familiar with Jacob as well, Jacob's now moved into the Central. So it's been divided up into these 3 regions. So you have your dedicated reps to call, discuss any of your projects. So any of these states that are here, if you need this mapping, if you're looking for that, or if you don't know who your rep is, feel free to just email sales@zyxel.com, and the appropriate salesperson will pick you up, and then you can start your conversations there. But you should have been assigned with somebody who maybe have signed you up through distribution or directly with Zyxel. But we are internationally recognized for our innovation and design. A lot of awards for hardware and software design of our products worldwide. We've been established and certified with ICSA certifications through the Verizon company there for the last 20 years straight. And we are one of the few vendors who actually have this kind of longevity and this acknowledgement. We are solutions driven. So we work with partners to make sure that your clients have what they need and what you have to available for you for management, for deploying your solutions. We are the R&D of the hardware and the software. And so we like to work with partners to get their feedbacks. So partners like yourself have access directly to us through product management, through your sales rep, through our tech support to make feature requests. So if you're like, hey, this button doesn't work well here, it would be easier for me to have this kind of view on the dashboard. This would help me, or maybe this kind of feature, or maybe this kind of product. If you guys have this kind of product available, it would make me very happy. So we want to work with partners to give you and deliver these kinds of solutions, because we have an entire ecosystem to provide such a solution. Our entire solution is a comprehensive portfolio, typically end to end. We have security products with appliances that does UTM, wireless access point solutions. We have switching core networks, both 10 gig with fiber, with and without PoE, layer 2, layer 3, web managed, you name it, we have some sort of option for that. Gateway solutions with hotspot management for maybe your hotels or guest network access, and then being able to manage it in multiple different ways for partners, whether it be a standalone CLI, if it's within the cloud or within even software solutions. Of course, we want to push you to the cloud, and that's what we're going to talk to you about today with our Nebula platform. But we have everything that's pretty much under the sun. So one thing, if you don't take anything else away from this, one thing I want you to take away is if there is a network, I want you to think of Zyxel, and that's pronounced Zyxel, like you sell Zyxel. And so think of us as a networking provider of anything, because we have pretty much anything that's connected to the network in our solutions. So we can find a way to help or build or to make those solutions work better using our equipment. So the first topic I wanted to talk about is building your networks with security, because I think that is the most important layer, one of the most important layers of a network, is because if you can have all the connections you have, but then once it gets compromised, things like that, businesses will stop and stop working or will stop being productive. And a lot of that people may ignore or maybe not realize that that's something that they would need or care about. But we have network security that really packs a punch in terms of speed, efficiency, the defense that it provides, protecting business networks, making smarter networks to be able to analyze threats and be able to do things to mitigate those threats in those small businesses. And we are focused in the small business space. Typically 5 to 500 users is kind of our sweet spot with our products. But we can go even bigger depending on if you're just deploying Wi-Fi in a stadium or anything like that. We have solutions there. But small businesses think that they are too small to be even, being an attack. One thing I always tell customers and end users is that we're connected to the same internet. And whether we're corporate or we're just a single guy, maybe the impact is not as great, but we're still under the same kind of threats. So if anybody who's ever plugged in a network device, a router, or even plugged in the computer without any firewalls turned on, you'll notice that within seconds, your computer or your network is going to be pulled. It's going to get pinged. It's going to get tested already to see if there's any vulnerabilities that it can actually utilize. There's a lot of zombie devices out there that are just looking for hosts nonstop because they've been compromised. And so they're just looking for new hosts to attack or to be able to connect to. 47% of small businesses have no way of understanding how to protect themselves even against these cyber attacks. And that's really a challenge. How do you educate small businesses that they require or maybe they need this kind of solution? And that's where partners come into play. Partners like yourself, you become the experts, and we help you to become the experts that help provide these kinds of solutions. 43% of breach victims are the small businesses. So even though they don't think they are the ones who are being attacked, because there's a wave of a 424% increase in small business cyber attack breaches this last year. And every 39 seconds, there is a hacker attack. So 54% of businesses don't even have a plan in place, even when they are attacked. So they have no clue that they are even being attacked, and they don't know what to do after they're attacked. So again, that's where you as a partner have opportunity to provide a networking solution, because it's just a matter of time. It's not on their radar, and it eventually will happen to somebody. And you rather have to deal with, instead of a break fix and wait till it causes havoc, but to handle it beforehand, before that even becomes a case. So as more and more applications, are being added within the cloud, people using remote access with multiple devices, you and I will have 2, 3, 4 devices connected to the network just for ourselves, for business, for work, doing voice, video, data applications, things like that. So there's a high demand for speed. So we know a lot of cases in the business side with remote working, kind of everybody having to telework, that they are requiring speeds increases within, the offices themselves, not just the download speed, but primarily the upload speeds of those routers. And so in order to do all that, you're now requiring higher speed throughput, and also try to maintain security at a high level at those speeds as well. So you could do quick speed tests. Your customers can do that today. If they just go on and do a speed test, they can see if there's a bottleneck of the connection that they've just purchased. So if they purchased another 100, 200, 300 meg connection, they want to do the speed test and see some number close to that. And if the firewall or the UTM security device cannot handle it, they will immediately see that and be able to question that, the services there. So we provide products that provide high availability for VPN access, especially in this remote working access environment, load balancing, WAN load balancing failover functionalities to have multiple internet connections be able to connect to different ISPs in case of downtime. So now, even now today, even more importantly, if there's no connection back to the office, especially while you're remote, it can become a really big issue. So offering the ability to do that is very important in this kind of business network. Being able to provide backup with with a mobile WAN type scenario, and doing virtual tunneling, being able to access these devices through a virtual encrypted VPN interface and be able to trunk them together to actually make a bigger pipe, so that if you need a larger connectivity between offices, that can be easily facilitated and done. Things like secure SSL VPN to extend the network. So from your laptop, being able to connect with SSL using a browser, being able to support LTTP that's built into your tablet or built into your PC or mobile device, kind of an easy built into Windows type solution, or using full IPsec. That's what we would suggest: robust, secure SHA-2 VPN with IPsec, being able to have the encrypted tunnel and be able to do it most efficiently. So we have solutions that will provide that both on the software side of a Mac or a Windows PC, so client, and then connect directly to one of our security firewalls and be able to enforce all the security policies that are available there. So if you have content filtering services, antivirus, application control, where people can access what kind of web page, especially content filtering, I think today that's one of the biggest solutions that people are looking for. How do I block people from going to social media during work hours, or to video sites, or whatever it may be, or even inappropriate sites for guest network access? How do I block those kinds of things? How do I do safe search? That's all within that content filtering solution. Or you may have a customer that says, I have a hotel or a public hotspot that people are downloading illegal music or video from, and we just got a cease and desist note. How do I stop people from downloading it using like BitTorrent or those kinds of programs? Well, the layer 7 application intelligence lets you do that. So you can find a packet that is coming from something like a BitTorrent and be able to block that and prevent that from happening. So a lot of those kinds of solutions, applications that we can put in just a box, in this kind of solution. On the higher end, we do have some additional features like sandboxing and machine learning in the cloud. And this is probably the most sophisticated firewall that we have, especially for certain industries, maybe finance or hospitality, in healthcare, or those kinds of things where there's information or government information sensitive, that require these kinds of threat management. So we have sandboxing technology that does that, botnet, malware blocking, intrusion prevention, and reputation filters by IP address. So these are just some of the features that add to the security level. And from a management and usability standpoint, these firewalls also have integrated Wi-Fi controllers, meaning that if you use Zyxel equipment, Zyxel access points, you can manage and provision them directly from the firewall itself without having to have an extra or a separate controller. The controller is built into the firewall. And with that, you get hotspot management as well. And that gives you those feature functions like terms of service. You've been to a coffee shop or a hotel that says, read these terms. If you agree to these, click this button and we'll give you internet access. So that's perfect for the client, guest network access, maybe in a doctor's office that wants to give free Wi-Fi to the clientele. You can create those separate SSIDs and have that on its own network that is kind of controlled by this hotspot management. Now you can also use this in a coffee shop where you want to charge for service as well. So maybe at a restaurant wants to charge a nominal fee, you can actually do tiered billing where you give 30 minutes free, but then after that you have to pay like $1 per hour or whatever you want to charge for it. And you can integrate that with like PayPal integration. So you could do that as another way, another application. And one of the things I always tell my partners and our customers here is that this solution has so many different, it can be as simple as you want it. It could just function as a firewall, or you can use it in very complex situations. Like I mentioned, being able to do tiered billing with hospitality, separate networks doing firewall functionalities, this kind of blocking, any kind of services you want to wrap into it, or just include it within the box, you can provide. So especially a managed service provider, if you're a managed service provider, this gives you so many different options to create different types of packages, tiers, and blocking capabilities. So you can offer these solutions to different industries again, like I said, a coffee shop to a doctor's office to, to just your average business needing protection, doing link aggregation for higher end customers who need high availability of the hardware. We provide those in those higher end models as well. Or you have those industries that require SSL packet inspection. So encrypted traffic being able to be decrypted and scanned for viruses or malware, those kinds of things before it's re-encrypted back to the client. Radius authentication and authentication capabilities with your Active Directory to create different policies to block, maybe certain users. Like salespeople have access to these things, but management has access to everything, right? You can create those kind of policies based on their login as well. So we provide 3 tiers: simplicity, flexibility, and the ultimate series. So those are their VPN series, our Usg Flex series, and our ATP. And our products, pretty much just range on a scale of its functionality and scale of its performance. So even within its own VPN series, these are focused, like it says, VPN. So if you have customers who I strictly just want a firewall that does VPN and I do it at a high level, and that's its main focus, you can use this VPN series. It has the built-in wireless controller, has SD-WAN integration, content filtering still, in device high availability, but does not have any of those UTM functions that may cost more CPU cycles to do that. And the one that's probably the most sold, this is kind of our bread and butter model here, is our Usg series. Our Usg Flex just launched several months ago, end of last year, to provide a flexible way of doing not only a standalone with VPN type functionality, but also be upgradable to the full UTM package. And so we have, models that have hardware only and also bundled with 1-year licenses, but it gives you high performance UTM with all of your unified threat management. It has even enhanced UTM using a cloud-based system to do scanning. And wireless controller, as before, there's flexible management that now you can use not only in a standalone, but we just launched this past month in April to be able to control it within our Nebula Cloud. And I'll talk about what our Nebula Cloud is as well. So this is kind of your all-inclusive, kind of all-in-one box that gives you kind of that flexibility of moving whichever way you want as a standalone or as a UTM. And our Ultimate series, our ATP series, is our advanced threat protection product that has our sandboxing. That's the main difference: sandboxing and some URL and reputation filters and botnet filters within the ATP series that's compared to our USG. But it has enhanced UTM than our traditional, still has device HA and the controller. But again, the difference is it's sandbox and the URL threats from that for the botnet filter. So these are some of the differences in the feature sets that you can see from the simplicity, flexibility, and the ultimate models. You can ask for our, these are also in our solutions guide on the website on any one of these pages. On when any one of these products will have that solutions guide available. But I would probably look at the Usg Flex itself, because then it just kind of gives you a midpoint. If I don't need so many of these features or I don't need UTM, I can move down to the VPN. Or if I'm looking for a UTM with extra, sandboxing in the higher end function, then you move up to the ATP. So it makes it kind of the simple way to kind of figure out which level to go. But I wanted to focus a little bit more about the Usg Flex. It's using some of the latest leading security specialists, companies like McAfee, Webroot, Lastline, Trend Micro, and Bitdefender. I think some of you may have recognized some of these. You probably use their services today within your client device, but we've basically taken their technology and we partnered with them to provide the signatures, provide the technology to integrate within our device. Some of these provide cloud solutions as well, so we use that to do some of the scanning and some of the signature access. But it allows for us to do things very quickly. We've now introduced what we call Express Mode. Express Mode is a cloud query mode. So your traditional scan on your normal security is like, hey, you have a signature, you have to scan that signature file to see if there's anything matching with it. Well, what we do is, and because our devices are limited in memory, they only have like a certain amount of memory per product. You can only store so many signatures, right? That's assigned for it. So now using what we call Express Mode, you're limited by whatever's in the cloud. So then there's billions upon billions of signatures now in the cloud that we can actually check on a hash base to see if it matches up and be able to use that as a blocking technology. So it evolves You can also change, things can be constantly evolving within the cloud. And so you can actually significantly improve your performance using the cloud query, and that's available within the product lines there. With our Usg Flex, you can only choose to go with one or the other, whether it's the base signature base or cloud mode. You have to choose between those two. And there's advantages and disadvantages of each. The ATP series, though, lets you do both. You can do both signature-based scanning and cloud scanning at the same time. But it obviously just costs a little bit more. Because it's cloud, you have to use it while it has connection to the internet. That's the only kind of caveat that is different. So you can't use it in a closed environment for scanning. And also it's not as adaptable, to certain malware. It has to see the malware and it has to be reported to the cloud side. But that's what the ATP and the cloud services help with. But we can see a 500% increase of UTM performance compared to our previous generation. And a lot of our competitors are in that still, kind of the previous generation. So we see a huge upgrade cycle now, again, with demand of bandwidth, accelerated by the remote access environment, that we see a lot of customers are now upgrading to these devices. But luckily, we are running a promotion. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely check out with our sales reps. We are offering a promo. If you happen to have an older generation USG or an NSG product, you can actually upgrade it to the new Usg Flex. All you have to do is purchase, trade in and purchase a 2-year license of the UTM, and we will give you the hardware platform for free. So if you're going to subscribe to 1 year anyways, you only have to subscribe to 1 more year and we give you the hardware for free. So really a lot of the competitors, they offer a kind of a 3-year license before they give you the hardware for free. So this is one of our best offers that we've done ever in terms of a trade-in program. And so look forward to seeing you take advantage of that. But you'll be able to take advantage of that, be able to pass that on to your customers, especially if they're up for renewal and they already know the Zyxel brand and they are familiar with the USG. It will make for an easy upgrade. And so there's definitely a, if you haven't checked out one of the newsletters yet about the upgrade, please check that out because that has the link on how to do the trade-in form. Each one of the products are, like I said early on, scaled to different performances. You can see on the Usg Flex, the UTM throughput is 360 megabits per second. You take that number, these are theoretical max, lab tested numbers. So in a real world environment, what you want to do if you're trying to gauge what kind of product works for each, for your customer, I usually tell people to gauge it about a 50 to 60% of that number will be more like your real throughput. If your customers are using it with multiple devices or multiple sessions, that's the kind of bandwidth you'll probably see in actuality. So if their WAN speed is like 200 megabits per second, and they're doing full UTM, like all of the threat management turned on, then this Usg Flex would be, be perfect for them in that kind of scenario. Now, if they say, well, even though they have, 200 megs connections, but they have, 200 people, or they're serving kind of a different environment, you still may then want to bump up to a higher end model because of the performance of, sessions and things like that. You may not need it for all of the bandwidth, but you need it for the horsepower to make it through. So it kind of scales there. Usg Flex 100 has a wireless built into it. All of these also have the wireless controllers, so you can use our controller or access points within these. And Usg Flex 500 and 700 go up to those higher throughput numbers, over 1 gig, 1.3 gigs a second. So I wanted to cover also the flexibility of the management and then also the licensing upgrade. So if you currently are using, or if your customers are currently using USG models right now, we've added a migration solution to you to help to simplify your customers. Before in the past, when people did an upgrade, they would wait till the very last moment to kind of maximize their UTM license of their USG. And then, they would finally upgrade to the new ones because they didn't want to lose, because there wasn't really much of a transfer service. You couldn't transfer your old licenses to the new product. So we've changed that with the USG to the Usg Flex. We've basically created a way to allow for your customers to not have to wait. They can take the benefit of it now and not lose those extra licenses. So when you're migrating from the USG series to the USG Flex, you're able to migrate your existing services. So say, for example, you have different licenses ending at different times. So this is like an extreme case where every license is expiring all at different times, but it's just to show an example. So the longest one that you have left is content filtering, which has 7 months of service left. So what we'll do is if you transfer over to a USG Flex and you go through kind of the system through the MyZyxel side, we will extend and normalize all the services to all have 7 months left free of charge. So then it, just upgrades that. So if you buy just the hardware only of the USG Flex, you could just move your existing licenses over to that USG Flex hardware only. Now, I did mention we do offer a 1-year bundle license as well. So a 1-year bundle with hardware. So if the customer happened to buy that version instead, we would then add the 7 months to that 12-month bundle, which means you get 19 months of services when you upgrade from a USG to a USG Flex. So we do that automatically, and we extend that to the new hardware. Basically, you put the old, Mac serial within MyZyxel, and you say what's the new one of your new USG Flex, and then the backend system handles that for you and migrates that over automatically. So really just an easy way for you to, again, take charge and be able to move customers now instead of having to wait till later. So you can migrate your NSGs, our NSGs 50, 100, 200, 300 over to the new USG Flex. And I did mention the promo as well. So even though you're getting the 2-year license promo, you can still migrate those extra time as well. So in this case, if you had 2 years, it would be 2 years and 7 months to the new promoed USG Flex. These are the models that you would transfer to NSGs going over to those models. And again, we have on our website as well. I think the first main banner on our website is about our promo and our upgrade platform, and all of these kind of upgrade paths are there to help you out. We also have tools like configuration upgrade tools that can convert basic configurations of the USG 40 and map them to the USG Flex 100 to help the ease of deployment or reinstallation of the new hardware product. But you want to be able to look at these ones to see the benefits, and ultimately it's all about higher speed, higher throughput, better security platform, and better future looking services that are available there. If you have not yet created an account, or you don't have a firewall installed yet, or haven't done anything within the Nebula platform, you want to go to myzyxel.com. This is where you create an account to register devices, to manage your licenses, and be able to look at your end customers and be able to manage and request for end customers to be managed by you. So make sure that when you do select, when you do make an account, and you are a business type account, or you're a reseller or a managed service provider, make sure you pick that you are a reseller or a business, not an individual. So pick yourself as a business, and that allows for you to then get access to some other things. It's reporting and be able to request for devices to be managed by you. They'll say you have your customer, they have their own accounts that you want to be able to have management over their licenses. You can make the request to that, to that device, and they can approve of that, and then you become a managing entity for that. Or if you want to just manage all of your customers under your own account, you can do that as well. And so we have customers that do it, different both ways. But this gives you access to see reporting tools of how many devices or what devices have expirations coming up. You also get notifications on those devices when the licenses are coming up. So this is a really good recurring revenue opportunity for you all to get that yearly subscription, be able to upsell customers to the different packages. And also these come with a 30-day, if you buy the hardware only for most of these devices, it will come with a 30-day trial of these services. So if a customer is not sure if they really want the content filtering service, you can activate a trial license and be able to configure it and show them the kind of things you can do and block, and also the reporting that's available to see what kind of websites people are going to, and then again, show value that then they can purchase the full license to get that on a yearly basis. So it's really, again, a big platform, allows you to do all that. And we are AWS and Microsoft Azure certified for VPC and Azure certified firewall. We're one of 7 vendors in the world who have this capability with our device. So it's certified there, being able to make VPN connections to that AWS cloud to use any of those services. If any of you are doing cloud-based, DNS or cloud-based services like email or CRMs, you have to use some sort of certified device to make that VPN connection into the Amazon cloud, and then be able to make sure that connection is always available. So we've gone through some pretty intensive, certification process and testing process through Amazon and Microsoft in order to get that to work and be certified. So we're proud of that. Going on to kind of our higher level, people don't maybe not know what about our ATP series does, but what our ATP does is it goes beyond your traditional UTM, being able to manage threats and be able to find things, even block things that are unknown. So conventional UTM, it requires signatures. You have to have a signature base, anti-spam, antivirus signatures, content filtering. So it's really good at finding things that are good and finding things that are bad. But there's a lot of gray area in between that if it was too strict, then it would be blocking, possibly, false positives and things like that. So then traffic would be able to go through. So we actually use ATP series uses a sandboxing AI in the cloud to manage this, to kind of figure out what those traffic is, if it's known good or known bad, or even unknown type of traffic. So we're able to conquer unknown security threats, zero-day threats, more sophisticated ones that are designed, maybe hidden. We're able to find those because we use a cloud-based option to kind of simulate that. And so we can actually find these unknown and be able to share that information within the cloud. So we use the cloud intelligence to inform and analyze all the incoming threats, to kind of look at that and establish real time what is those kinds of threats, like are they malicious or not. And each time we find a virus, it just keeps getting stronger. Our database gets bigger, and we are able to identify more things and be able to mitigate more attacks across the board. So how do you do that? Well, let's say there's a zip file that kind of comes through the network. We see it, we detect it, we don't know what it is. It's an unknown threat. So that file is actually then uploaded to the cloud. And so we emulate that. We execute the product or that file in the sandbox. We look for packets, patterns, and things like that in the sandbox. We then identify if there's some sort of connectivity, if it's trying to make a connection to maybe a server, it tries to execute some sort of program. We identify that and then be able to make a defensive intelligence about it and make a signature that then shared across the other networks. So really it's about machine learning and how this evolves into a better product over time. So all of the other devices, ATP, USGs, that use the cloud query or the cloud functionalities of signatures, it is shared within all of that. So maybe one device may see it and then be able to send it up to the cloud, and that cloud is then now protecting all other devices within the ecosystem. Is there a size limit for sandboxing? I have to double check to see if there is a actual size limit. I don't know how it, if it handles like a zip file. In most cases though, when we do scanning, if you have threats of large files, they typically will enable the ATPs to do both signature and cloud, so that it can actually go through the signature base first without any size limitations. But I will double check that. I think there possibly could be, because otherwise you don't want to be sitting there trying to upload an 8 gig file. But I think you can also set limits on how big of files that can be sent through your network as well. So if the file size is beyond a certain one, it seems malicious, or it's trying to do something to your network, you may actually be able to block it. But it just depends on what it is, what you're trying to do, especially if it's an unknown device or unknown location. All right, so the ATP comes in the same series and kind of classes as the USG, so it makes it easy for you to kind of standardize on the numbering, right? So if you start again with the USG 100, if you're like, well, the customer is good for the USG 100, but I want sandboxing, then it's easy to just say, well, I want the ATP 100 to do sandboxing. or if I, have already quoted out a USG Flex 200, then the equivalent model is the ATP 200 if you want sandboxing, right? So it's just an easy numbering way for you to find which products will fit that. So we just have different solutions there with the different models. We don't have a USG Flex 800 yet, but that's probably in the works. But we have everything up to the ATP 700, USG Flex 700 as well. What is Secure Reporter? Well, Secure Reporter is a cloud-based management system that you can use for our security products to send information, analytics, reporting, alerting. This is really good for partners who want to show benefit to their customers. So you can customize different reports that get sent out every month for that customer, and be able to show, hey, how much bandwidth did you use? Who used the most bandwidth? What websites did they go to? How often? Whatever it was. You have all of those information, the trends, be able to alert when things are not working or maybe certain thresholds have been hit. And we leverage the cloud so you can manage multiple devices within a single interface. And this is also being integrated and has been integrated into our Nebula Cloud platform as well, now that we've brought our USG Flex into the cloud. Some of you may ask, like, when will the ATP series? It's going to come towards the end of this year, where the ATP series will also be part of the Nebula Flex Nebula Cloud solution. And Nebula is our cloud-based managed IT that I wanted to focus on today as well. It basically brings no hassle network management, free network management options to you as a solution provider. Now, you may say, well, I'm maybe new to networking. I don't have a, SolarWinds or maybe other third-party management software, or I didn't design my own software to manage network devices. This is the perfect solution for you to be able to kind of take it out of the box and be able to start using it in a very powerful way, a system and a cloud system that, it would be very difficult to kind of build on your own. We've taken over the last several years now and enhanced Nebula with, again, working with partners, managed service providers, to providing this kind of solution. But it provides you a complete, all-inclusive solution for management that you can even set up without unboxing. And so I'll give you an example how great this is, especially in today's contactless day and age, right? Everything's contactless, your food or whatever it may be. Even networking now could technically be contactless. We can ship a box or a solution, a kit, or you can ship to your customers a kit that has basic installation information. You would already have pre-scanned the QR code, which gives you the MAC and serial, and you've assigned it for that customer in your Nebula account. The moment that is installed and configured, it can then call home to the cloud and say, hey, who do I belong to? Okay, I belong to this customer A. It will pull down its a firmware file. It will pull down its configuration file. You can already have pre-configured it in the cloud before the customer even have received the box. So you can pre-configure them. So the moment it gets that, it could be up within minutes after it gets online. But here's also the reach. Here's also the extension that gives you opportunity. A lot of times, most partners are servicing an area where they could, drive to. Because it's within driving distance of rolling a truck, 3 hours or 4 hours, whatever it may be. And that's kind of their coverage area. But imagine as a partner, you can literally now reach way beyond that anywhere in the country, because you can ship a kit to the customer with some basic installations that says, plug this wire into your internet modem or into your internet access, plug your switch into this port on the firewall, plug this access point into this port on the switch. And once it's online, everything is calling back to the cloud. It does all the work for you. So you can also do this with third-party installation. You don't need a network person who's Cisco certified or anything like that to be able to configure these kinds of networks. You just need somebody, even a cable person, to be able to do that connection, to be able to do just those simple installation steps, so that you can then see it in the cloud. Brent asks the question, how do you configure if static IP cannot get to the internet initially? So what you do basically is, if typically in a network environment, so in an existing network environment, you may already have a modem that is already there with internet connectivity that is providing DHCP already, and that's probably 99% of the cases today. Now, if the firewall will act as a an initial like static IP from the beginning, there's no other router in front of it. The easiest way in those kinds of senses, you still have to do it as a DHCP in your local office, right? You just have to plug it in as a DHCP so it can call the cloud, so you can pre-configure it for that static IP, and then send it off to the customer. So there is, when there is that static IP situation where there's no other router in front of it to provide any kind of DHCP, that is kind of the case. Any USB option there. For USB configuration, there are some USB configuration options, but it's a little bit more complex than you just going into the cloud or locally just having it connect to the cloud initially before you send it out. So you might just have to stage the product beforehand to do that. Thank you for the question. Otherwise, the product does have USB. If you have devices that are maybe providing an Ethernet WAN kind of connectivity to give it remote access or to give it access to the internet for that first time, then it can get that configuration to do that. But it's going to get up in just a few simple clicks. And the cool thing is that it doesn't need any other hardware. You don't need a cloud key. You don't need additional software installed in that network. Everything is housed in the agents that are within the products themselves. So it's all built into the switches that are Nebula capable, all into the access points and in the gateways like the Usg Flex. They're all the solution itself is all kind of self-contained. So you just need the software and you just need to have the licenses appropriate for it and use it in the cloud. And you can access it anywhere. Because it is in the cloud, you can use it anywhere you have internet connection, whether it be on your mobile device, your tablets, your PC, as long as you have access to it. This is like the IT person's like dream, right? To sit on top of a mountain and do IT work. I mean, maybe that's not your cup of tea, but hey, at least you can, right? You have that option to do that. So you have access to the NCC controller anywhere and be able to perform any of the configurations that you would with the device. You can get notifications on the app itself and to get some basic informations there. So there's a lot of access, a lot of information that's provided, and a lot of things that are built that maybe your existing maybe third-party programs don't have access to. A lot of SNMP type management software out there gives you some visibility, gives you the traffic, up and down. It's kind of the life cycle of the product or the life of the product, like if it's up or down, but doesn't give you you can't configure things. You can't, you have to script things to get things configured. So you have to do very complex things that's all now managed within the cloud. And you can manage multiple clients because we do it in an organizational view. So it's a multi-tiered management solution. So you can manage multiple customers under a single pane of glass. And it gives you options to kind of drill into everything. You can look at holistically how the organization looks in terms of its health. You can drill into each one of the sites. So how it's built up is each organization kind of is one customer, and each customer can then have multiple locations, so each site in it. So you can decide how you want to build that out. Usually we have maybe like retail chain number one, and then each one of their stores is a site underneath that. And it gives you the holistic view. You can then add different administrators to managing or their view of just their organizations, or you can have tech, as your tech team to be able to manage, different regions of customers. So you can assign them to specific ones to manage, or maybe their account managers to be able to see different accounts themselves. So you can do whatever kind of ways you want to do that, but it gives you, visibility on how much bandwidth, how much PoE is being used, how many access points, any alerts, alarms, where they're located, a lot of those informations from the dashboard, and also some key information on how people are connected. I think that's the biggest one, especially for wireless. You don't know who's connected to what and how, how good their signal is. You can only tell when they call in and say, I can't get connectivity. And at that point you're like, well, I don't know, because I have no visibility on what you're even connected to, how you're connected, what your signal strength is. The only thing I can think of is go closer to the access point. It's sitting over here. See if that helps, right? That is not a good way, but Nebula gives you that visibility. You can actually look at and find, so-and-so's iPhone, their actual device, and what access point they're connected to, even shows you the signal strength that they're showing at the access point is seeing from that device. So you can literally use this as a troubleshooting method, or even as a proactive, as a managed service provider, proactively look at, hey, so-and-so is connected to these Office APs. Their DBM is just -80 all the time. Maybe we should put another access point somewhere closer, or to figure out why maybe their signal strength is so bad. Brent has a question. Are there all connections shown, or just the DHCP lease clients? All connections are shown, I believe, as long as there's a MAC address. But typically when they have a MAC address, then they will also have an IP as well. So I don't know if there's certain connections, Brent, that you're looking for that if they're showing or not. But typically it will have an IP like associated with it, with these kinds of networking devices. So like in this case, though, there's no IP. It's just about the Wi-Fi connectivity. So we're going to see the MAC address, what network they're connected to. So it may not even have an IP connected to that. For example, there are network time clocks. Oh, I've never actually dealt with like a network time clock before. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that would show up or not, but that would be interesting to see if it would show up. In this kind of case for Wi-Fi, if it's connected via Wi-Fi, then you would see them connected and associated and what their signal strength is on there. But then you can see all those different types of connected devices on there, whether or not they're Zyxel products or not. You can see there's iPhones in this graph and mix like that too. You can see what their bandwidth utilization is. You can also then go and check and drill into the ports as well. So in a port complex or port scenario, this is the easiest way for you to use this in maybe an IP camera solution, or even a wireless access point. You can schedule power cycles, or in an IP camera solution, maybe the customer or you noticed there's no traffic coming from camera from port 24. You actually can then select the port and do a power cycle. You can use it to ping. You can do you can look at the MAC table on what that port is getting. A lot of these live tools that you can use to troubleshoot. And again, typically you don't have access to unless you built a backdoor VPN tunnel directly to the switch, and then have to kind of map it out. Where did my switch is, who's connected to what mentally or on a diagram to figure that out. But here you have access all in the web GUI itself. And all of this is actually available. If you want to go through and kind of check out an online demo, just go to nebula.zyxel.com and it'll take you to the Nebula platform. And there's information on the login and password for the demo site. So just go in there, check it out, see how easy it is to use, and just the information that you get from Nebula. But it's, again, all inclusive in the product. And a lot of it actually comes for free. Because we do have a free version provided of Nebula that gives you kind of a base access to some of the features, the key features like provisioning and things like that. Now, there are also higher tiers of solutions that you want to get to because of the different kind of applications. Most of our customers, though, if they are a managed service provider, they will all automatically go to the pro features because of the pro level gives them all the logging that they would want, all of the admin access and configuration and flexibility that they want. So they move to that. But we've also created a new tier now called the base, a plus tier, and I'll talk about what those are. Nebula Flex is the term that we use for our products, meaning that they're flexible to be able to use as standalone or within the Nebula Cloud. So you can flip them into the cloud. So those are the Nebula Flex to kind of give you the functionalities, or you can use to the higher end Nebula Flex Pro. And I'll talk about what the differences of those are. Okay, so in the Pro feature set, it gives you things like network visualization. So we can actually auto detect the different devices that are connected to which on the network, and be able to draw out basically a diagram, a mapping of what's going on in the network. And then you can drill into those devices if they are available, or if they are part of the Nebula platform. Or if you're doing anything with IPTV, we've integrated features of reporting and also software AI to control and help with the multicasting networks to better serve those clients. Features like that, being able to monitor the different channels and doing reporting and optimize those. And very importantly is that the reporting option. I think a lot of our IPTV customers, partners will love this to be able to offer to their hotels to see an instant view of what channels are being used, how often they're being used, what channels are most watched, to help to negotiate maybe with their service providers on what channel options or packages that they want to provide to their customers. If nobody's watching any of these other channels, what's the point of paying extra for those? So they might be able to negotiate something better with, with their providers there. So I'm going to move over to the Wi-Fi functions now. We just have like 10 minutes left on our presentation. So I'm going to move through this pretty quickly as well. For Wi-Fi, you may have some new installations and you're like, hey, I just put some new technology in, put some more access points, but I didn't get any improvement in my Wi-Fi performance. My customers are still having bad, signals or things like that. So what's kind of the reason behind it? These issues happen because of co-channel interference, and co-channel interference requires, if you want higher bandwidth, you're using more channels to be able to get that higher bandwidth in the Wi-Fi technology. So it causes more interference between, your devices, anything else that's out there, or with the other access points. I'm sure if you're at your office or you're at any kind of hotel, when you turn on your Wi-Fi, you instantly see, 15, 20 access points. All of those are creating some sort of interference. So the more you have, or the more people you have in a coverage area, you're going to have that co-channel interference so that nobody can communicate. So how does a smart antenna technology work? So here's an example of that. Without smart antenna, you just have a coverage area in an office space. You may have something that is nearby that may be causing interference, like let's say a microwave. It can cause some interference and then cause communication disruption or interference with other devices in that coverage area. But using smart antenna technology, you actually have a solution that provides a kind of a technology. You still have the same coverage area, but what it does is it actually will scan the latest 700 maybe patterns and tries to detect what will be most optimal to prevent those kind of co-channel interference. So it will look real quickly and find out something that is most optimal to communicate with that client. And it will do that for each one of the clients. So it finds the optimal beam combination and shape for each station that's out there. My example to my customers is if I'm standing in a field or standing in even in a room, maybe a loud room, if I cup my hands like this, all of a sudden my voice is a lot better, a lot louder, so you can hear me better. At the same time, I'm cupping my hands this way. If I had 4 hands, I guess, then I could hear you better as well, right? So that's kind of the combination that the access point is doing, both listening and speaking at the same time to the client, finding that optimal pattern, and then, changing its pattern based on who it's talking to and listening to. Kind of like the cone of silence. I know, maybe a little bit of like a cone of silence. If you did put the cone of silence on, I mean, I just worry about squirrels. That's all. So that's what it does. That's where the technology comes into play. And it helps to prevent that co-channel interference, because co-channel interference is like a highway or a motorway. Just the traffic is just constantly coming through. It's like me and my 3 kids. If they all are talking to me at the same time, I can't understand a word they're saying, right? So that's what's happening with the access point with co-channel interference. So how do you mitigate that? You use smart antenna technology, which is a patented technology that Zyxel has to increase capacity. It increases coverage, reduces interference, and does it in a way that just overall experience of your customers and the clients will have a better overall quality of service. So that's how it works. I'll skip this slide that's just explaining the other one. We designed for our ultimate experience because we designed the hardware. So we put our products, our shielding with the antennas, our CPUs, and the chips are also shielded as well. The product is shielded from other products that might be there on the wall. So that's why we could back our products, including our access points, our switches, and our gateways, with a lifetime warranty on the products. So it comes in multiple different flavors. Can you, Brand asks, can you mount them in different orientation? Yes. So the smart antenna actually can either be, if you want to put it on ceiling or on a wall mount. We do have other models that are dynamic, where you can actually digitally flip them so that they're more optimized to be on a wall, so that the pattern is more of like a football, or it could be on the ceiling, and you can change it to ceiling mode, which then becomes more of like a cone down, right? So the football is going downwards. So it's more of that kind of option there. So there's different options to do that, but the smart antenna will handle that for you, whether or not you're handling on the ceiling or on a side mount. It just depends on how you're trying to push the coverage through. So we have different models that will manage that. On the low end, if you're primarily a company that I will not name, starts with a U, that does Wi-Fi stuff. We have products that compete with that and provide you with the lifetime warranty, provide you with the margins that you need, and working with our sales and dedicated support to do that. We have cloud solutions that are dedicated in the Nebula Cloud itself, or flex models like our business class models, our Nebula Flex Pro models, our Unified Pros that can be used in room, and also on the cloud. So a lot of different options. Again, talk to our sales reps, especially in the Wi-Fi space. There's a lot of different options. These are all 11AC here with indoor, outdoor, but we've just also launched recently our outdoor and indoor Wi-Fi 6. So the AX technology, both within the standalone and in the cloud mode. So we have solutions there within the cloud. All right, the last topic we wanted to talk about in the last few minutes here is our switching, just to get some basics on it. Switching is really, I think, a necessity of, our networks. It's the core of the network. So if it doesn't run well, it can also affect your Wi-Fi networks, any other kind of application solutions that you have out there. So a little bit about the naming conventions. ES just stands for Ethernet switch, which is your like 10/100s. GS is our gigabit switch. That's our gigabit ports. XS is our Roman numeral for 10. So it's our 10 gig or multi-gig type ports. XGS is a gigabit switch by nature in its 24 ports, in its main ports, but has a 10 gig uplink. So it has an XGS. That's the naming for that. MGS is just a metro switch. We don't have very many of those. If it ends in a P or an HP, that just means for PoE or high powered PoE. Those are the kind of conventional names. Some of them, if you are in the kind of the telco side, F stands for fiber switch. So it has fiber ports, so SFP ports instead of regular copper. We have things like switch combo ports that give you both the copper and a fiber option. And these are numbered the same port. So you can only use one or the other. You cannot use both at the same time when they are called combo ports. All right. So if you see the same number within those same ports, they're the same. You can't use both at the same time. SFP and Sfp Plus, those are gigabit fiber and 10 gig fiber options. So you'll see that in our uplinks or some switches that have, entire fiber modules. And that we have solutions that give you the fiber connections, direct attached cables for that as options. Be able to stack the switches again with our direct attached cables with our 10 gig direct attach. We have some of the switches that give you those options as well for stacking. And then most importantly is PoE. That's probably the biggest application that we have, and most customers use it because it can be used for Wi-Fi. It could be used for voice over IP. It could be used for IP cameras and a lot of even security connection panels, access panel solutions, and even industrial lighting now is using PoE. So we have classifications for the AF standard, which is the 15.4 watts. Most of all of our switches are now 30 watt standard, which is our 802.3 AT. And our PoE++ solution is starting to roll out more of is the 60 watt 802.3 BT or Ultra PoE solution. So within our PoE solution, one of the main differences and benefits that we have is intelligent PoE. It is using and allocating power intelligently, smart, like I would call it smart PoE, to be able to maximize the budgets that's available and be able to control the ports, be able to control how much power is being allocated. So I'm going to jump to the next example here, because it kind of shows the power of this PoE consumption, this consumption mode. In classification mode, let's say this pan tilt zoom camera is classified to use 30 watts. So in a traditional switch, it will say, hey, if I want to power up 20 of these devices, I need 600 watts of power. So you have to buy something that huge of a budget, which then costs more to run, costs more to operate, those extra power budgets. But because the camera only consumes 16 watts, we actually can power it up using smart PoE, intelligent PoE, to power it with just 320 watts. So in a device that has 375 watts, like our 24 port switch, you can then power up, 20 of these cameras without a problem. So that's how we use our classification mode. All of our portfolio comes with like the low end small port count. If you're doing voice over IP applications that don't need very much power and just needs a lot of ports and some power, or you can have higher end platforms that use higher end power consumption modes. So a whole series, and probably your bread and butter here is your 1920 series and our XGS 1930 series. These are all Nebula Flex. These are what our partners typically buy and use and start with and they can either move up to a higher end switch, or they'll move down to a lower end switch that doesn't need like Nebula kind of access. But this is probably the one that they standardize on the most. Brent asks, what devices are using PoE++? So I will talk about that right coming up after this slide. So PoE++, multi-gig, Wi-Fi 6. That's pretty much your answer. Those are the ones that are using most of the PoE++ today. So if you're looking for the 60 watt standard using Cat 5 or Cat 6E or Cat 6A type cabling, you need kind of the correct wiring to push those kinds of traffics on the full 10 gig across those networks. They may not use the full 10 gigs, but our XS1930 series provides you multi-gig. It gives you 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, 10 gig options. And this is our primary switch right now that we use to power up our Wi-Fi 6, because our Wi-Fi 6 technologies today use like a 2.5 or a 5 gig uplink port on the access point itself. And used in full power mode will actually consume or utilize about 32 or 33 watts of power. So it's beyond your 30 watts of power that you have. In fact, 30 watts, the 30 watt technology only uses like 20. You can only usable as like 27 watts. So anything above 27 watts requires you to use an Ultra PoE. Also 60 watts can be used nowadays to power up console PCs. So they may be just a small PC tower or a laptop type device that just uses a 60 watt power to operate. And so that's probably your main solution to do that. You won't have to worry too much about this migration, but we do have a new model, our GS2220 series, that is replacing our GS2210, and also any of our Nebula switches will also move to this GS2220 series. So I'm just going to skip to our last slide here. Our last slide is about our partner program. If you're already part of our partner program, again, thank you so much for that. You are probably sitting in the silver tier today. That requires you to have a 6K, sales over the next 6 months in order for you to maintain that silver tier. You get double-digit margins on the back end with our distributors. We have DNH, Ingram Micro, Cynix, Wave, Target, and we've just signed on board Pace International as a distribution partner today. So you have those options. If you don't maintain that, you'll be bumped down to the bronze level. But we want you to get to the gold tier, which is only 12K. If you're doing any kind of solutions projects, that's probably one project every 6 months that can hit you to that 12K kind of max. If you do one of a bigger installations of like a hotel or a small hotel type things, or certain types of size businesses, will have that kind of solutions when you're doing access points, gateways, and switches. But we encourage you to do that because you get access to all the deal registrations. Take advantage of that. Access to our sales engineer, advanced replacement. You have your dedicated sales rep, all that kind of fun stuff. Be able to do that. Also, if you guys have not yet connected with us, definitely connect to us on LinkedIn and on YouTube as well. And also we're on Facebook as well. So if you want to check into this content, we also stream live to Facebook as well. Does the monthly count towards the target? When you say the monthly, which monthly are you talking about? There's no monthly fees like to join the program. It's just whatever you've sold within the month. If you have any of the services, all of the services, licenses, UTM licenses, those all count towards the target. So if all you do, we have some partners who are in the gold tier, and all they do now is just they hit the tier just by selling their UTM licenses renewals for their customers every year. So they have so many UTM devices that are out there that just by themselves, just by those licenses, they are actually able to maintain those tiers. So, take advantage of it. We kind of put it at a threshold that makes it obtainable. It's not out of the question, and if there's no cost to it. So thank you, Josh, for those comments. But if you have any other questions, feel free to send me them, or because we're out of time, I'm 4 minutes over, and I apologize for that. We had so much to cover. I appreciate you being able to sit here through that hour and 4 minutes with me to cover about 110 slides. I don't know if you guys ever gone through 110 slides, but in a 64 minute period, that's less than a minute a slide. So it seems like every time I do this, we always have a couple more slides that we need to talk to you about. But if you have any questions, though, send me an email, try@zyxel.com, or send it to your sales rep, Jacob, David and Andy. They'll be glad to help you. So we'd love to hear from you. If you have any solutions, have any products that you want to talk about or know more about, definitely, jump in and send us a message, and we'll happily get on board with you to talk to your customers to figure out what solutions. We'll bring in our systems engineer to talk through what are your good, better, best kind of options to fulfill an application and a need that you have for your customers. So send us an email and contact to us. And so we would love to talk to you and become and work with you to be our a networking ally. So we look forward to being your networking ally and hope to see you again at another one. I have another webinar next Tuesday that talks about secure Wi-Fi and how to use access points to extend your corporate network or your business network to the home. So this is really applicable for that remote user and how to secure that network. So join me next week on Tuesday, same time, for that secure Wi-Fi webinar. So please, feel free to sign up for that. Until next time, we'll talk to you again soon. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you through email or whatever it may be. So my name again is Try, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a good rest of your day.